Hello everyone, this is going to be a bit of a different YouTube video. I have off camera been building up a large army-ish of Warhammer figures, so I will actually show you really quick, just off to the side over here, a bunch of Warhammer figures that we have assembled and put together, pre-primed with some black spray paint and all of that. So today I am going to be painting one figure, and I may actually need to turn this brightness on the ISO down. Yeah, that should probably be good. I will be opening these up at some point on the stream. And yeah, we're gonna just hop into this. For those of you, if you want to follow at home, this is the specific model that we are going to be painting today, and I will be using several of the official paint listings, so mostly just kind of following what the basic instructions tell you to do, and we will go from there. I'm going to move these over here. I'm going to fill up my mud bucket with a little bit of water. Okay. So I have a list of several brushes that I actually use during these kind of paints. However, you don't need all of these in order to get started. Realistically, a brush like this and like a base painting brush is really all you need. So yeah, I mean, this is an accumulation of like a lot of time and effort and us just working towards getting these things. This was not done over like a single day, so don't expect yourself to get this done in a single day as well. I will be just kind of gathering up a bunch of this blue paint like so, and we're gonna absolutely destroy this model with McCrag Blue. I do have a bunch of sounds going on in the background as well, just to kind of help keep it chill for me. If you guys can pick up on that, let me know, and I'll find what's recording the sound and turn it off, but I don't think it's coming through. Usually I vibe and listen to some music or ASMR stuff, just kind of keep it vibing and chill. So let me get up under here, paint the feeties, coat the backpack, and the technique that I'm using here technically is called overbrushing. It's where you take a bunch of paint, load up a paintbrush entirely, and then go through and coat as much of the model as possible. But as you can see, all of the cracks and crevices still do not have paint in them, which is a really good thing because it makes it look much more three-dimensional. Let me pick up a little bit more of this. I think I'm good. That's a pretty good base coat on everything. It's not quite covering everything, but I can always get back in with a more detailed brush and pick up the parts that I need to. So I'm gonna wash this off. Okay. Whoops, I have way too much water left on this brush. That might actually end up being a problem later. But that's a problem for later, William. And not for right now, William, which is the best kind of William. Alright, next I usually go in and fix up any places that have been missed with a normal sized miniature brush, so nothing too big and nothing too small. So we'll go back in with the same paint, and I usually just take it straight from the pot because it you can thin your paints with a wet palette, and I would recommend doing so, but for the purposes of what I'm doing right now and just base coating, that's not exactly super important. So once again, just coming in and hitting lightly on the spots that I missed. And you don't have to worry about getting paint on the base during this phase because it will all be completely covered and repainted with something else. And any areas that you do mess up on, you can always just go back and fix later on. And I do believe Andy is in the background painting with some watercolors. I could be mistaken though. That's looking pretty good. Let's see here. Also, this is a relatively quick drying paint, so thanks for Citadel for that, because then I can just kind of rest my fingers on the parts that are already dried and not have to worry about smudging paint or getting it all over myself. Because honestly, despite the fact that I love painting, I hate getting messy. Like, I hate having to clean up paint from my hands or super glue or anything like that, so honestly, like, this is perfect for me. Yeah, I'm just giving it a quick once over from directly under the light so I can see if I need to add anything anywhere else. And all the last areas that aren't touched by the paint currently are actually going to be hit by the different color. So this is perfect. Alright, so for now that's it with the blue. Now, usually what I'll do after this is go back areas that I know I want to paint a different color for sure, and hit them with a black. So, I am going to find my Abaddon Black, which is this. We're going to give it a good shake. And then I will go in and do the detailing, which can actually be quite a bit of a pain. Let's see here. Dink. Got a little bit of black paint. One of the things that I've found personally when it comes to painting stuff is to start at the areas that you are most afraid of, like paint spilling over into an area you don't want it, and then painting away from that location, as opposed to like painting towards it. So like, for example, the wing emblem on his chest starting at the corner and then painting toward the middle. Because with me, that's the easiest way to ensure that I have at least a little bit of control over where things are going to be going. And then these little intricate detailed ones, start with the outsides and then work your way in. So these will eventually end up being gold. So will the shoulder pads, but however the pauldrons I do not paint with the black because the pauldrons are actually a lot harder to touch up with that. This charge grenade I will paint black though, because it also helps separate the differences between his hand and the weapon he's holding. Okay, get a little dot of paint here, go right around the edge, and that's perfect. Okay, so a couple of areas that we're going to hit with the black to bring it out and make sure that it's right is the gun holster. This I paint with a tan brown and then the metallics right here. So because it's going to be hit with a metallic, the metallics are really faint in their coloring and can sometimes require multiple coats. However, if you hit it with black before you go in and paint it with the metallic color, it makes it stand out a lot more. Instead of having a blue undertone to your gold or your silver. And then also the weapon itself gets painted black. And during these phases you can kind of afford to be a little impatient and just kind of silly with it and go crazy. And, you know, just like with every miniature or everything that you will ever paint, you don't need to follow the exact colorations that I use, but it is important to remember the color blocking. So like, you know, remember the areas that are going to be a different color. So with this figure, a good example is right here. Between the legs is going to be a metallic for me. It helps give it a little bit of contrast and definition to the separate parts of the body. Any of these areas that have metallic looking separators are going to be a different color. So I will go through and paint these now, so that way they'll be ready to go whenever it comes time for me. The back also has a couple, one right here and one right here, and then a couple up in the sides. Dude. Also, this is going to go a little bit faster than what I'm used to painting when it comes to miniatures. Normally I actually take about an hour or two per mini. And then another thing that I do is usually I paint these little things silver. The vents on the side of his face. And that is the main part of this done. Now, before I go in and actually paint them with the colors that they're going to be, you know, just because this was a little bit rushed, I do need to go back, hit it with a little bit of that blue, just to cover up any, like, tiny little mistakes, because end of the day, we want this to be as close to perfect as possible. So with my miniatures, I like them to look a very specific kind of way. So here, this is one that is fully completed. You can see the difference in colorations on his bags, and like there's no color bleeding on anything that's not supposed to have the color on it. This is just a level that I enjoy doing at. You do not have to copy this to the exact. And I also wouldn't expect you to if this is your first time. We're going to go back into focus. Okay, very, very, very light amount of paint on the tip. And then we go in with pinky on the base for a little bit of control. And just cover up any of the tiny little speckles that may have gone over. And as far as I can tell, that's really it. Yep, and then the rest of this should actually be pretty good to go. Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to wash that off. And then we will go in with... Let's see, do we want to do the gold first or the silver first? There's less of the... Oh, I missed a spot that I needed to hit. So this is one of the important parts of just kind of going back over the figure and remembering where your color blocking is going to be. So I'm going to take a little bit of the black paint, and I personally do the pommel of the sword with a golden color, just to give it a little bit of character. And then I paint certain parts of the weapon silver as well. So the bottom part absolutely needs to be a darker black just to pick up the gold, but the silver parts, because of the blue, can actually make them kind of nice and stand out a little bit more. So I am going to be going in now with the, I think it's Balthazar Gold. Let me move the black and that out of the way. It's Mornfang Brown. This is Balthazar Gold. Okay, so with the gold, you can see that this runs really fine. So like, if I just let this go, you can see that it's moving on its own. So unlike all of the other paints, which are incredibly thick, this is kind of thinned. It's not a bad thing. It means that it's going to flow a lot easier. So with that, I tend to do a bit of the opposite, where I'll start with the areas that are going to be the easiest to flow in. So the skull right here in the center. Let me adjust this for you so you can see. So the skull in the center of the wings is where I usually start, and then after that's painted, I will go back over and just bring the gold into the parts that need it. And once again, the little areas that you see me messing up on are pretty easy to actually fix in the long run. Like that little spot right here can have a little bit of fixing done to it, but once that dries, I will go back and fix it. For now, we are going to move on to the pommel. Just gently brushing around the outside of it. I am going to go right under the light for this area though, because it's a little harder to see. And then right under here. Okay, the next spots that we're going to hit are going to be the very center of the belt. And a little bit more just to kind of darken that up. Okay, now the only places that we really have to hit with the gold are this little thing on its arm and the pauldrons on the outside. So, once again, I am starting on the skull, the area that's going to be the easiest for all of the paint to kind of flow through, and then painting out from there, then individually touching up the little details and crosses on it. And that's that. So let's get a close-up of this so I can actually show you what I mean. So you see the the little tiny mistakes along the edge, that's going to be real easy to just hit with the McCrag blue and kind of balance it out and fix up the colors. There we go. Okay. So next, I think that's all of the gold except for the shoulders. I need to go in and hit those up real quick. Shoulders are going to be the part that's actually the hardest for me. I've had a lot of issues doing pauldrons before just because of the sheer amount of curve that exists here. And that also means that the brush can slip in different directions and paint other things that you don't want it to hit and then not notice it until after you've washed the piece, which is why after you do each color it's important to go back and just look at everything from every possible angle, make sure that, you know, not only did you not go over the areas that you weren't supposed to, but also that you actually have full coverage of the colors you're wanting. Okay, a little bit more paint. And then we're going to get right in here. And remember, this is meant to be more relaxing than it is stressful. So you don't have to take a ridiculous amount of time with this. Honestly, if you want to just slop paint on, that's perfectly acceptable as well. As long as you get more paint on the miniature than yourself. Let me get really into detail right here, because these arms always give me trouble. And as you can see from just me painting in general, I do have quite a bit of a shake when it comes to me painting. Fine detail work is by no means my specialty, but a little bit of practice and a little bit of patience. What'd you say? Andy?
What?
What happened?
Oh, no, I'm watching Boruto, and I can only assume that these things are filled with bugs.
Oh, fun. Andy's watching Boruto in the background. Let's see here. Something that I did miss when it comes to repainting for color. These little things here on the backpack, those usually I paint black as well because they end up being a much darker silver color. So let's check this front out. The front needs a little bit of work with the blue, but the gold step is done from what I can tell. So I'm going to go back in with the McCrag blue and fix up the areas that I kind of messed up on. So let me just start with a little dot, just a single tiny little dot, go in, repaint just the very edges of this, as well as up under here. And that's fixed. Now we check the shoulders. Shoulders are looking good. I think right here might be the only spot. Got a tiny little streak right here. And that's fixed. And that's it. That's the entire process for everything on painting minis, is just do it slow. You can mess up and paint from the outside in for details, for fixing up, paint for the inside out. Okay, so next I think I'm gonna hit it up with some of the silvering. So the silvering is going to be the little vents on his mask. I don't know if you can see that too well from There we go. The little vents on his mask right here, the joints between each of the limbs, so right here, 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 the detailing on the weapon, as well as the spikes on the chainsword. The hilt right here, a little bit on the grenade, and the bottom of the weapon holster, as well as the backpack. So I am going to switch over to my basing color for this, which it's lead belcher. It's a very dark silver, which makes it good for the darker metallic colors. And with this, you can just pick up a lot and then kind of coat where you want it. And because the weapon itself is actually going to be black, it means that fixing mistakes in this is a lot easier than you'd think. Because you just coat whatever you want with the colors that you want it, you go back and you fix it up with the black. So this one you can kind of afford to be just a little bit messy with. Once again, kind of avoiding the parts that you've already painted. So like, don't go back over the hands and the bottom pommel. Like, you want to be kind of careful in the areas that you just don't want to repaint again. Okay. Going back in, painting top of the chainsword. Little bit of this part. Ooh. I had a little sneeze. Okay, so then we go in and do the joints, which can be a bit of a pain. Because depending on where the joints are, they can be a little bit more difficult to work with. Because I've had some joints be like up underneath between the legs, and that can be such a pain. But that's why they call it pain thing. And that's that. We will come back and detail some of the metal bits in like the bags and stuff once we get to the brown paint. Now this part for the grenade, I'm actually gonna just kind of give it a overbrushing, almost dry brush, just to give it some 3D texture and make it look like an actual object in his hand, as opposed to just like a black void. And then we hit up the... Actually, I'm gonna kind of clean my brush up a little bit get that point back. And then we're going to go in and get the area next to the mask, because I'd rather not have to touch up the finer details on the mask if at all possible. Okay. Then we get the backpack, and that should be all of it, actually. Oh, I think the battery on my desk light just died. So I am not really going to be able to do too much about that, but I can do this. Bah! A little bit more brightness for you, just to pick up a little more ambient light. But this thing is actually almost done. I think all I have to really do is hit the spots that are brown and give it a little bit of dry brushing with silver to emulate, to simulate some battle damage. And then this thing is actually finished. And then we will get on to the Magic the Gathering packs that I have up here. Yeah, so let me hit the, where is it? Yeah, okay, so we use Mournfang Brown for the leather. At least that's how I like it. You don't have to copy me. Dip a little bit of that brown, get in here where it goes, and just spread it around. And once again, I'm not wanting to work again in the areas I've already painted with the lead belcher. So I'm going to be extra careful around those spots. And I did make a little mistake right here on the waist pad, but I will be able to fix that up real easy. So it's not too big of a deal. And a little bit of the belt right back here. And the bag. Alright, that's all of the brown. Gonna wash this off. We will fix up the blue, but I'm gonna let that dry first, and instead work on the black parts of this weapon. But in order to do that, we want to hit our highlights first. So I'm going to be using some Runefang Steel to bring out a little bit of brightness in the weapon and everything that's involved with it. So put a little bit of paint on, take a little bit of paint off, go through and just hit the parts that you want to bring detail to. Give a little bit of an outlining in the brighter color. You can hit the tiny little screws with this. Go around, hit the little details that we want to. these spots. And then you're done. Now we will go in and use the Abaddon Black to clean up the spots that we messed up. Then I will go in with the Macragge Blue, fix up the spots that I messed up on the main body. And then we weather it. So let me get a little bit of black paint on here. I will be coating the entirety of the sword in this. Oh, sorry, I just realized I was off camera for that. And then we kind of move it around a little bit. Give it an even coat on all the parts that we want it to hit. Okay, that's all the black. Now we will go in with the Macragge Blue, fix up the spots with the leather coloration, and then it's time to weather him. So we'll close that. A little bit of the blue on the tip. Okay, you can see, let me show you, right here. And then that's fixed. Now we move on to the next spot. That's fixed. And that's fixed. And now we're done. Now we just got to give him a little bit of a metallic look. Now what I use for this is actually a dry brush. You don't necessarily need one like this, but what you can get is an old makeup brush is what I've seen a lot of people use. Something from like the dollar store. But what we use is a flattened brush like this right here. That way it just hits the highlights, and then what I'll do is the really bright Runefang steel for this. So we open it, take the thing, absolutely destroy it with paint. I like to load it up a lot, wipe off the excess, then completely wipe off almost all the paint from the brush itself, and then we hit the highlights. And you can go as light or as heavy as you want with this. I usually prefer a lot heavier of a color with it, just because it makes it like really stand out a lot. And it brings a lot more detail to the spots that would otherwise be lacking. Okay, that's done. I just gotta dry this off. Then we put the lid back on it. Okay, now we wait a little bit for that to dry up, and then I will hit it with a wash. Then I will paint the eyes with the corn red. This is what I use for the eyes, and we will be done. So I will open up the packs for the time being. Let me close my light that died on us, unfortunately. Let's see what we can get from these packs. We got a couple of Kaldheim boosters. I got a set booster and then a bunch of what's it called? Collector's Boosters. Blood on the Snow, Cosmos Elixir, and the 3 Seasons. Pretty good start. We'll move on to the collector's packs now. I'm always hoping for a foil Phyrexian Vorin Klex, but you know, the sheer odds of that happening are pretty low. Snow-Covered Swamp, Surtland Elementalist, Tundra Fumarole Extended Art, Redain, God of the Worthy, non-showcase, Finn the Fangbearer, Tegrid, God of Fright showcase, Cardir Doomscourge, and a full art Old Growth Troll. Next pack, hoping for at least a decent mythic. Would love a Valky. Would love a Vorin Klex of any type. Furia's Retribution, Draugr, Necromancer, Extended Art, Ascendant Spirit, Foil, Maha, Breakguard Protector, Orvar, the All Form, that's our first mythic, and it's the showcase, Morite of the Frost, Rise of the Dreadmarn, Extended Art, Foil. Last 2 packs. Hoping for a beast of a hit. Snow-Covered Forest, Bounty of Skemfar, the Kaldheim Commander cards, Realmwalker Extended Art, Asika's Chariot, Call the Forge Master showcase, Tegrid, God of Fright showcase, Narfi, Betrayer King showcase, and Righteous Valkyrie Extended Art. Last pack, last chance at something incredible. Let's see what we can get. Snow-Covered Plains, Wolverine Raiders, Righteous Valkyrie Extended Art, Waking the Trolls Foil, Inga Rune Eyes. Oh, Asika, God of the Tree Showcase. That's a pretty good one. I'm happy with that one. Herald, King of Skemfar, and Draugr Necromancer Extended Art Foil. So, nothing insane, but some pretty good stuff nonetheless. Always good stuff when it comes to Kaldheim. Alright, so we're going to finish this boy off with, I use Basilicarnum a little bit. Yeah, I use a little bit of Basilicarnum on the metallic parts just to give it a little bit more of a shine and a bit of a rustic look to it. So I will take that onto, where is my loading brush? I do not see my loading brush, so I will have to use a standard miniature paintbrush. A little bit of Basilicarnum on the metallics. Darken it up real good. Gives it a real nice grime to everything. Okay, Basilicarnum is done. Now we hit everything else with an Agrax Earthshade. Now I'm not going to let this pool. I'm going to just apply it as much as I can in various areas that I feel like I need it. So taking a little bit off the brush, making sure not to overdo it, and then just moving it around the entirety of the model all at once. Because you can end up with an incredibly browned model, and that is not a good thing. We're just going to coat everything that we can with this, move it around as much as possible. Alright. see where else needs it. This one needs it a little bit. We're going back up toward the backpack with this, coating everything that we can with it, and moving it around a bit. I will at a later date go in and paint the insignias on his shoulders, but as of right now, that's not something that I'm focused on for this specific mini. And with that, it's actually done. So what we'll do for the base is, as soon as this dries, I usually take them off the base, so that way I can place down the Astro Granite and just kind of smush them into place so they have a more permanent set, and it actually looks like their foot belongs where it belongs, as opposed to having to worry too much about getting it on the model itself and all that. I will be going in with the Karn Red right now, though, because I forgot to do that. Just on the tip. Then we go in very carefully. And paint a little bit outward from the eye, so that way it gets a nice glow effect as well. And that's done. Alright, so now I will take this little fella off of his base. Let's see here, like that. Set him in a place where he can dry comfortably without having to worry about his colors smudging or anything like that. I need to find, here's the cap. So this, always take care of your brushes. You don't want to have to replace them if at all possible. Okay, so somewhere around here, I know is, here it is. This is Astro Granite. It's a fun little thing. If you've never used it before, it comes in like this paste, and you just want to take a glob of it on some kind of a tool, like this, and then just kind of plop it down on your base. And then kind of work it around the base. I put way too much on mine, so I'm going to have to take a little bit off. And just kind of shove that back in there. And we should be good from here. Now, one of the things that you can do that's unnecessary, but I like it a lot, let me clean this tool off. We actually have a couple of these specialty things. They're little grass tufts. I will be taking one of them and putting them on the base. So, take the little sheet like that. Take take a tweezer or a clipper or something, and then you grab the whole tuft, plop it up, and just stick it down where you want. And then once the Astro Granite dries, you can shape and trim and move around the tuft as much as you want to. And then we take our little dude, we shove him back where he goes, like so, and then he's done. So let's get a close-up of that. Once again, I am sorry for the light going out in the middle of us doing this, but it turned out pretty great. So, thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time. Goodbye. Oh, there's the focus. Goodbye.